In the wake of a tumultuous electoral landscape, Florida Democrats are grappling with a historic decline in their numbers and influence, while the party nationally faces an existential crisis in articulating its core values. As the dust settles on the 2024 elections, the Democratic Party finds itself at a crossroads, confronted with the challenge of redefining its identity and strategy amidst a shifting political terrain. The 2024 elections marked a significant setback for Democrats, particularly in Florida, where they have struggled to maintain relevance. The party's internal strife and lack of a cohesive message have been further exacerbated by a national narrative that portrays them as out of touch and indecisive. As political analysts note, the Democrats' failure to present a united front or a compelling vision has left them vulnerable to critiques of spinelessness. Moira Donegan, writing for The Guardian, argues that the party's recent efforts have been ineffective, oscillating between opposing and collaborating with the Trump administration, which has only muddied their message. What Democrats need now is to discover their spine, she asserts, emphasizing the importance of articulating a set of values that resonate with the electorate. This internal discord is mirrored in the broader political landscape, where the far-right agenda, revived under Trump's influence, seeks to reverse advancements in civil rights and social justice. As Donegan points out, while Republicans are actively reshaping policies, Democrats appear to be caught in a cycle of compliance and opportunism, failing to counter the aggressive narrative laid out by their opponents. The party's attempts to appeal to moderates have resulted in a dilution of their platform, leaving voters disenchanted and disengaged. Amidst this backdrop, the Democratic National Committee (DNC) is poised to elect a new chair as it seeks to rebuild after the 2024 losses. This leadership transition presents an opportunity for the party to reassess its strategies and address the core issues that have alienated its base. However, the path forward is fraught with challenges. Analysts warn that unless Democrats can break free from their current paradigm, one characterized by fear of offending moderates and a reluctance to take bold stances, they risk further marginalization. In Michigan, a state crucial to the Democrats' electoral strategy, speculation about the upcoming Senate race underscores the party's precarious position. As candidates prepare for a contest that could play out differently from past elections, the need for a clear and compelling Democratic narrative has never been more urgent. The party must grapple with how to engage a diverse electorate while also articulating a vision that resonates with both longtime supporters and disillusioned voters. Looking ahead, the Democrats must confront the reality that their traditional messaging strategies are outdated in an era dominated by social media and rapid information dissemination. As voters increasingly engage with political content online, the party's reliance on conventional media channels may hinder its ability to connect with a younger, more diverse audience. The challenge lies not only in defining a robust political identity but also in leveraging modern communication tools to effectively convey that message. As they navigate this tumultuous period, Florida Democrats, along with their national counterparts, must prioritize authenticity and conviction in their political discourse. The electorate is not only seeking policy solutions but also candidates who exhibit courage and a willingness to fight for their beliefs. To reclaim their relevance, Democrats must harness the energy of grassroots movements and articulate a clear, principled stance on key issues such as healthcare, education, and social justice. The future of the Democratic Party hinges on its ability to adapt and respond to the evolving political landscape. As they face the daunting task of rebuilding their influence, the lessons learned from past electoral defeats could pave the way for a resurgence based on resilience, unity, and a compelling vision for America. In the ever-evolving landscape of American politics, the return of former President Donald Trump to the White House has reignited a whirlwind of controversy and intrigue. His latest term has been characterized by a barrage of executive actions, stirring reactions from both supporters and opponents alike. With an aggressive strategy reminiscent of his first administration, Trump appears determined to capitalize on his political momentum, while critics express concerns over the implications of his unorthodox governance. Trump's re-entry into the political fray has been met with a mixture of enthusiasm and exhaustion. Senator Dick Durbin, the minority whip, noted the chaotic nature of Trump's administration, stating he's throwing a lot of things at us at once. Lots of executive orders and lots of changes. Some of them are confusing, chaotic. I don't think we are going to keep up with it. This sentiment underscores the prevailing feeling among Democrats, who find themselves scrambling to counter a rapid-fire series of policy changes and controversial statements. One of the most striking events occurred shortly after a devastating mid-air collision that claimed 67 lives. Instead of offering a moment of solemnity, Trump quickly pivoted to blame his predecessors, weaving unverified narratives into the conversation. This tendency to meld tragedy with political rhetoric has become a hallmark of Trump's second term, further polarizing an already divided political landscape. Craig Shirley, a Republican consultant, remarked, "Politics is motion, and Donald Trump is a study in motion that is good for achieving his policy goals, but it's also good at keeping your opponents on the defensive." The frenetic pace of Trump's actions has raised eyebrows not only among opponents but also within his own party. Some Republican lawmakers have expressed discomfort with his more extreme measures, such as his intent to end birthright citizenship or his purging of inspectors general. Nevertheless, Trump's adeptness at rallying his base is evident. Recent polling from Quinnipiac University shows that 46% of registered voters approve of his performance, a notable increase compared to his initial weeks in office during his first term. As Trump's administration navigates this tumultuous terrain, the questions surrounding its long-term viability loom large. Experts believe that the rapidity of his actions may ultimately lead to overreach, which could invite pushback from both Congress and the courts. For instance, the potential for judicial challenges to his more controversial policies, such as those related to immigration and citizenship, remains a significant concern among Democrats. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, a prominent Biden ally, has already taken action to counteract Trump's maneuvers by blocking individuals involved in the January 6 Capitol insurrection from holding state jobs. The political battlefield is not solely defined by Trump's actions, it is also shaped by the response of his opponents. With the Democratic Party facing significant challenges, including a decline in influence in states like Florida, the necessity for a strategic and cohesive counteroffensive has never been more critical. Maurice Mitchell, national director of the Working Families Party, emphasized the need for grassroots movements to maintain discipline and focus on key issues rather than reacting impulsively to every outrage. As the political climate shifts rapidly, the potential for backlash against Trump's aggressive agenda seems inevitable. Democratic leaders are acutely aware that the success of their strategies hinges on public engagement and mobilization, with polling indicating a significant portion of independents disapproving of Trump's actions. The opposition may find leverage in rallying discontent among moderate voters. Moving forward, the question remains: who will falter first in this high-stakes game of political chess? Will Trump's administration maintain its momentum, or will it become ensnared in the very chaos it has sown? As both sides grapple with their respective strategies, the unfolding drama in Washington promises to be a focal point of American politics for the foreseeable future. The dynamic interplay between Trump's audacity and the Democratic response will undoubtedly shape the nation's political landscape in the years leading up to the next election cycle. As the political landscape shifts and the 2025 election cycle heats up, Michigan is once again in the spotlight, with significant implications for the balance of power in the U.S. Senate. Recent developments suggest that this Senate race could unfold quite differently than previous contests, reflecting broader trends that have been reshaping American politics. The current political climate, characterized by heightened polarization and shifting voter demographics, sets the stage for a dynamic Senate race in Michigan. Analysts predict that the candidates will need to navigate a complex web of voter expectations and party loyalty, especially as Michigan has become a critical battleground state in national elections. Political strategists are closely monitoring the potential candidates who could emerge, including notable figures from both parties. In a related vein, The Senate Foreign Relations Committee is grappling with significant national security concerns following alarming reports regarding the United States Agency for International Development (USAID). Senators Jeanne Shaheen and several committee Democrats have raised serious questions about unauthorized access to USAID premises by individuals claiming affiliation with the Department of Government Efficiency. This incident reportedly involved breaches of classified areas and has prompted urgent calls for accountability and clarity from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The lawmakers expressed deep concern in a letter to Rubio, emphasizing that such unauthorized access jeopardizes not only sensitive information but also the integrity of U.S. national security operations. The potential access of sensitive, even classified files raises deep concerns about the protection and safeguarding of matters related to U.S. national security. They wrote, "This incident underscores the challenges facing federal agencies amid an evolving security landscape and highlights the need for stringent oversight and adherence to established protocols." Meanwhile, in Minnesota, a controversial proposal from Republican Senator Eric Lucero aims to fundamentally reshape the state Senate by apportioning representation based on counties rather than population. This potential amendment could dramatically alter the balance of power, favoring rural areas and effectively entrenching Republican dominance. Critics, including legal experts, have labeled the proposal as unconstitutional, citing a historical Supreme Court ruling that mandates equal representation based on population to ensure fair democratic processes. The implications of this proposal extend beyond Minnesota, as it raises critical questions about representation and electoral fairness across the nation. Advocates for civil rights and equitable representation argue that such measures could exacerbate divisions and disenfranchise voters in more populous areas, ultimately undermining the principles of democracy. On the national stage, the Senate is also preparing to vote on the controversial nomination of Pam Bondi as Attorney General. Civil rights advocates are sounding the alarm over her potential confirmation, warning that her history of undermining voting rights and civil liberties poses a significant threat to the enforcement of federal laws designed to protect marginalized communities. Maya Wiley, president of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, emphasized the importance of this vote, framing it as a pivotal moment for civil rights in America. As these stories intertwine, they reveal a broader narrative about the current state of American politics, a landscape marked by fierce debates over representation, national security, and civil rights. With the election cycle gaining momentum, the stakes are high, and the outcomes of these races and nominations will likely shape the political environment for years to come. The coming months will be critical as candidates emerge and the electorate grapples with the implications of these developments on their communities and the nation at large. In a significant political shift, California Democrat Adam Gray has successfully flipped the final unresolved House seat in the 2024 elections, unseating incumbent Republican John Duarte in a closely watched race for California's 13th congressional district. This victory not only marks a crucial moment for Democrats but also narrows the Republican majority in the upcoming 119th Congress to a precarious 220 to 215. The outcome projected by ABC News underscores the growing competitiveness of congressional races in traditionally Republican strongholds, as the House prepares to convene on January 3. The implications of this narrow majority are already being felt, with President-elect Donald Trump nominating 3 House Republicans for roles in his administration, including Representatives Matt Gaetz, Mike Waltz, and Elise Stefanik. Potential vacancies could further complicate the GOP's ability to govern effectively. Gaetz, having already resigned from Congress and withdrawn from consideration for Attorney General, exemplifies the shifting dynamics within the Republican Party, which could soon find itself in a position where every vote counts. The narrow majority means that even a single defection could lead to a tie, severely limiting the party's legislative power. House Speaker Mike Johnson acknowledged the challenges posed by this slim margin, stating, "We've developed an expertise in that. We know how to work with a small majority." He emphasized the necessity for party unity in navigating the legislative landscape, highlighting the reality that every vote will be critical. This situation presents unique challenges for advancing Trump's agenda, as any dissent could jeopardize key votes. While Republicans brace for a tumultuous legislative session ahead, the Democratic Party is also recalibrating its strategy in light of recent electoral results. The House Majority PAC, a leading super PAC supporting House Democrats, has announced the establishment of a $50 million fund aimed at winning back working-class voters, which they view as essential for regaining majority control in the 2026 midterms. Mike Smith, the PAC's president, remarked, "Crafting and developing a credible working-class message, an economic-framed message, is the single best thing we can do as a party." This initiative reflects the party's recognition of its need to reconnect with diverse voter demographics that drifted away in the last election cycle. The newly launched Win Them Back Fund will target key districts across the country and invest heavily in research and advertising, focusing on 14 Republican-held House seats. Smith noted that the strategy differs from prior efforts that focused primarily on specific geographic areas, instead emphasizing broader outreach to voters who feel alienated from their party. The targeted approach could potentially reshape the political landscape, especially in areas where Democrats have previously struggled, as both parties grapple with their respective challenges. The broader implications of these developments will undoubtedly play a pivotal role in the upcoming legislative session and the political climate leading into the 2026 elections. With the stakes higher than ever, the dynamics in the House are set to evolve, and the competing strategies of Democrats and Republicans will be closely monitored by political analysts and voters alike. In conclusion, the recent electoral shifts in California and the formation of strategic funds by Democratic operatives signal a period of intense political maneuvering. The coming months will test the resilience of both parties as they work to solidify their positions and appeal to an increasingly diverse electorate. The outcome of the 2024 elections has not only reshaped the immediate political landscape but has also set the stage for future battles that will define the direction of American governance. In recent weeks, the Supreme Court of the United States has drawn attention to three pivotal religious rights cases that could reshape legal boundaries between church and state. As the nation grapples with issues of religious freedom and civil rights, these cases promise to have far-reaching implications, igniting fervent debate among advocates and opponents alike. Justice Brett Kavanaugh recently underscored the significance of religious liberty during a speech at Catholic University, asserting that the court has made important strides in this area over the past 6 years. This statement reflects a broader trend within a Supreme Court increasingly favorable to religious rights, with recent rulings often aligning with the perspectives of religious organizations. However, this shift raises concerns among critics who fear it may undermine the foundational principle of church-state separation. Among the cases set to be heard this spring, the Oklahoma charter school case stands out as particularly consequential. This case seeks to determine whether the state can establish the nation's first religious charter school, potentially allowing government funding for religious education. Legal experts warn that a ruling in favor of the charter school could set a precedent for expanding public support of religious institutions, effectively blurring the lines between public funding and religious activities. Frank Ravitch, a law professor at Michigan State University, emphasized the stakes involved, noting that these cases are not merely minor legal disputes but reflect significant societal tensions. He pointed out that the court has heard more religious rights cases in recent years than in the previous 2 decades, suggesting a strategic push by religious advocates to consolidate their legal victories. The second case involves a Maryland challenge from parents seeking to excuse their children from classes that include books with LGBTQ+ characters, arguing that such content contradicts their religious beliefs. Legal experts predict that the Supreme Court's decision could either affirm or diminish parental rights in educational settings, further complicating the already contentious landscape of public school curricula. The third case concerns a tax exemption dispute involving a Wisconsin Catholic charitable organization. The state Supreme Court ruled that the organization did not qualify for an exemption, stating that its services were not inherently religious. This ruling has prompted legal experts to debate the criteria for determining the religious status of organizations and the potential implications for tax law. The arguments surrounding these cases reflect deeper ideological divides about the role of religion in public life. Advocates for religious rights assert that the Constitution's Establishment Clause should not impede the ability of religious groups to access public funding and support. In contrast, opponents argue that such rulings threaten the separation of church and state, a principle they believe is essential for maintaining a pluralistic democracy. As the Supreme Court prepares to deliberate on these cases, the potential outcomes could have lasting implications for religious institutions, public education, and the rights of parents and students in schools across the nation. Scholars and observers will be closely watching how the court navigates these complex issues, particularly in a political climate where discussions about religious expression and education are increasingly polarized. Looking ahead, the decisions rendered by the Supreme Court in these cases will likely serve as a barometer for the future of church-state relations in the United States. Whether the court will reaffirm traditional interpretations of religious liberty or chart a new course in favor of greater religious involvement in public life remains to be seen, but the stakes are undoubtedly high.